This is part 2 of our fabric drawing adventure, and today we're diving into a complex fabric using graphite pencils. So let's get ready to add some depth and dimension. To start the actually drawing process, make a light line sketch of the cloth. You can either use your own piece of cloth reference or use the provided example. I'm starting with my HB pencil as usual. I want to keep the initial sketch light and easy to adjust. The fabric I'm drawing is hanging from a flat surface, creating a nice drop fold. Drop folds can also have half locks, spirals, or pipe folds. If you're not sure what I mean, check out my previous tutorial on fabric textures. I'll put the link in the cards. After sketching out the overall shape, I'll make a few adjustments and lighten some of the lines with a kneaded eraser. Then I'll start shading from the right edge using a soft layer of graphite from my HB pencil. The light source in my reference photo is coming from the top left, so I apply shadows accordingly. This step is all about initial layering, defining the dark and light areas. First, I'll define the darkest areas, then move to the midtones, and finish with the lighter and softer highlights. As always, I'll use the white of the paper for the brightest areas. For the shadow in this section, I'll darken the left edge as it needs to be sharper and more defined. The right edge will get a softer, less distinct shadow. Using contrast and shading, I'll map out the position of each plane, determining where the shadow family and light family belong. The appearance of folds can sometimes change based on the type of fabric. For example, very rigid fabric can create sharper looking curves. In the case of hanging cloth, the tension is usually created by the fabric's own weight pulling down from where it's attached to something. To better understand how the light and dark areas are created and how the shadows are cast, we should analyze the lighting conditions that the cloth is hanging in. In this case, the light is coming from the left side of the drawing and slightly to the front of the cloth. This means that the lighter areas will be on the parts of the cloth that are facing in that direction, and the darker areas will be on the parts that are facing away from it. The cloth folds will also cast both shadows and light reflections on one another. As the curves are fairly smooth, the transition between the light and dark areas will be gradual as well. The drop shadows will be cast opposite of the light source. Next, I'll use another HB pencil, but with a sharper tip, to work on the details of my drawing and define the edges even more. Layer by layer, I'll use the HB pencil to soften and blend the shadows. As I go, I'll use a round brush to blend and smooth the shadows, but just lightly. For the actual shading process, try and apply the pencil strokes in a way that reinforces the shape of the cloth. In the next step, I'll switch to a 2B pencil to darken the shadows and enhance the contrast of the drawing. This will help the highlights pop more and the drawing won't look too flat. You can use a brush or blending stump to fade and blend the shadows in every step. To finish the drawing, gradually apply more overlapping sets of strokes to darken the shaded areas and to smooth out the overall surface of the cloth. Try and avoid completely blending the strokes to the point of invisible. As mentioned earlier, the direction of the strokes can help reinforce the shape of the curves. Both the shadows and reflections will be opposite the main light source. Generally, the larger the folds, the bigger the shadow they will cast. More pronounced folds will cast sharper shadows, while smoother folds will cast smoother shadows. Reflections will mainly happen on the curved sides of folds that face towards another fold. More pronounced, larger folds will cast brighter reflections. Make either slightly curved strokes or set of fairly short straight lines that wrap around the curves of the fabric. Afterwards, apply another set of similar strokes, but in a slightly different direction to create a crosshatch. As was mentioned earlier, the folds will cast shadows and reflections on the other folds. In this case, the first fold on the left will cast a shadow on the fold to its right. This fold will in turn cast a shadow on the next fold. The reflections will be the light bouncing off of one fold to illuminate an area on another fold. For example, the fold on the left will have a very thin light area on its right side created by the light being reflected from the middle fold. The middle fold will have a barely noticeable light area on its right caused by the light reflecting from the left fold. For the final step, I'll use a darker pencil like a 4B or 6B. I personally prefer 6B for this drawing because I want a high contrast drawing, and I don't want the midtones to be darker than the shadows. I'll focus on deepening the shadows, and I think 6B is a great pencil when dealing with shadows. Keep on applying more sets of strokes to darken the shadows and to smooth out the gradients, but don't fully blend them. As already mentioned, keeping some strokes visible will give the cloth more of a fabric-like texture, and the direction of the strokes can help emphasize the shape of the curves. Cloth folds are fairly complex and depend on a variety of factors such as the tension or compression of the cloth or even the type of fabric. While these instructions focus on pencil shading, most of the tips in this tutorial can still be applied even if you wish to draw in other mediums. To finish, I'll slightly darken and shade the background so it doesn't look flat. This will give the drawing a sense of depth and dimension in the space. Cloth folds can be fairly challenging to draw due to their seemingly random shapes. It's difficult to cover more examples in one tutorial, but the tips provided here should give you a good basic understanding of how to draw some of the more complex and common types of cloth folds. But anyway, I decided to make a series of tutorials on drawing fabric and cloth in future in this channel, so we can delve into this complex subject later. Hope you guys find this tutorial useful. Thank you so much for watching, and please don't forget to subscribe and share your opinions. And I'll see you soon for the next video.